Hello, hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face and my card making space and another real-time video. I have been enjoying them and able to do a few more of these where I don't speed it up and voice it over. I will still do videos like that though, because these real-time ones are longer, but it's kind of fun to chat with you guys and explain the random thought process, what's ever going on in there. So today we're going to make another shaker card because for whatever reason, I've lost my mind and I've been making lots of shaker cards lately. They're fun. They are fun. So I'm using more products from the Pretty Pink Posh June. It was their June release, right? I don't remember. Whatever the recent one was. I think it was June, the beginning of June. Something like that. I don't even know what date it is. Anyway. Using products from that. I'll have a link to the release. I did another shaker card video using one of the other shaker elements, and I loved it so much I had to do it again. So we're using other products, and we're going to make a little Sandcastle shaker this time. So as always, everything I used will be listed and linked in the description box below the video. My links are affiliate links. That just means that if you click on one of my links and end up placing an order, I do get a little kickback from that at no extra cost to you. That is what helps pay the bills, keeps the lights on, enables me to keep bringing out content. And yeah, let's get into making the card. Okay, so I'm going to use this Sandcastle shaker from Pretty Pink Posh because it is ridiculously cute. So to make it an actual shaker, I'm going to need to do 2 layers of die cuts. And am I going to be able to get both? Probably not. So I'm going to need more cardstock. This is Neenah Desert Storm cardstock. I don't know yet if I'm gonna add a little door to this, but I'll just die cut that because I can. And then for the little flag pieces, I probably don't even have a scrap. I've got like some shaker bits pulled out. I don't want to go with like a true blue sort of a color. There we go. There's a scrap of cardstock. So we'll use that. Because if I'm going to be die cutting, I may as well do as many at once. Okay. So this will take a little bit of die cutting. Not a lot, really. Because the first layer is going to be for the back of the shaker, which will make more sense as I put things together. So we've got, oh, the saves are good. We'll just set that like that. And then we've got just the Sandcastle itself, which is super cute, just as is, just the stitching detail, you know? So if you don't want to do a shaker, I like that there's that option, is we could just do that, you know, you could add a little bit of ink blending, what have you. But this is going to be like the back to seal it in. So I need another piece of the Neenah Desert Storm. There we go. Oh, that I'll probably use as a card base. Save that piece for other items. So then to make the shaker window, what I'm going to need to do is take that, and then we need all the interior bits, you know, to create the frame. And like I said, I kind of like that. I'm actually going to cut on this side because this side with the grid with the Empress is a bit more magnetic. There we go. So I like that these are separate. For a shaker like this, it is a little bit more finicky, but I do like that it gives you that option. So you've got the solid piece, because if this just one die did just the frame, it'd be more of a pain, in my opinion, to make it a shaker, because then you'd have to do some intricate like tracing and fiddling to create the back piece, you know, if that makes sense. So having these dies separate does make it easier. So we just need to center them up in there. And then that one, get where you belong. There we go. That one, and then this final one. So we've got all our pieces, just like so. So now I'm going to run this through, and this will create the frame, aka the top of our shaker. And then once I've got this piece, the last die cut I'll need to do to officially make this will be the acetate. But first I'm going to take all these out so that I do not lose them. Stick them back onto the packaging like so, so that they're where they belong, because otherwise, especially little pieces like this, they'd disappear, they'd grow legs, we all know this. Oh, and I can put the door there too. There we go. Okay, so now, oh, this is so cute. Seriously, stop it. Look at that. How cute that is. So that'll be the front, like that's going to be the top of our shaker. Now to make it a shaker, we need acetate. So, where's my acetate? Here it is. Okay. I need a fresh. I've got some lightweight acetate here. Like that. And a mess. Okay. So, I'm going to take the acetate. I'm going to trim this down. Now the thing to remember when die cutting acetate, it is finicky. When I'm talking finicky, acetate is finicky. I need a piece of copy paper. This kind of works, but not as well as it should. Do I have? Here we go. I'll just take a piece of copy paper to put behind this. Take the copy paper, and then I'm also going to add the, where it is, there it is, my metal shim to this sandwich for my Empress, just to give it that little extra something. And then we're just going to see how well it cuts, because again, acetate and die cutting they don't really like each other too much. However, let's see. Oh yeah, there we go. Perfect. Oh, love it. Love it. I've also shown in other videos too, sometimes if it's not releasing, it's taking my scissors and I don't have to cut, but I almost like just glide them along. And that seems to do the trick as well. So, love that. Okay, that's going to make this so much easier. Because otherwise, the other option would be if this was a die set. Like if you're wanting to make a shaker, but the die itself doesn't, just only cuts a frame. Like say it had all those interior pieces part of it. What I would do then to make it like the shaker window is I would take the die like this. I would trace around, or I've also shown taking the negative piece, holding it, tracing it with a Sharpie, and then cutting just slightly inside that line to create my window. But obviously die cutting so much faster. So because there's a lot of space, whatever, normally I do not like using liquid glue to create my shaker bit, but that's probably what I'm going to do. But before I get to that, let's add a little bit of ink to this to make it look a little more, give it a bit more depth. So Let's use some, let's do vintage photo. That's one of my go-tos. So we'll use a bit of vintage photo distress ink. And we'll just add that with a blending brush. And this will just give everything a little more depth. Yeah, instead of just being flat cardstock. Yeah, I like that. That just warms it up a bit and makes it look not so flat. So I'll do the same thing with this piece for the back. There we go. And then I'll also ink up the little door piece while we're at it. So we've got those. Add a little bit more. Just add a little bit more ink. There we go. Okay. So that's got a bit more depth to it. Just need to wipe out the ink. Okay, so I have talked about it many times. I don't like adhering acetate with liquid glue. However, for how long it's going to take me to run like red line tape or square tape or whatever all over this, I just don't have the patience for that. So this is where I break my rule, and I'm going to add liquid glue to this. But I'm going to do it very thin line all over this, like so. Just like that. You don't need much. Okay. So I've got that. Lid on the glue. And then I can press the acetate onto the background or onto the frame. And then I'm going to stack my heavy magnets onto this and just let this sit until the glue dries, because it needs that time. So I will be back with the magic of video editing immediately, but I'll be back when this is dry. Okay, this glue dries clear, so you can pretty much tell it's almost completely dry. There's a couple little spots that aren't fully dry, but it's dry for all intents and purposes. So then we need little foam strips, and we've got to build our shaker bits. And I'm just going to work my way around, making sure that there are no gaps in I'm going to cut that even smaller. No gaps in between any of these parts. So rather than make you all, you know, have to sit through me being like tedious, because this part's going to be a little bit tedious. It won't be awful, but it's going to be a little tedious. I am going to just skip ahead and save you all the aggravation. So we'll just do that. There we go. So yeah, just making sure that everything's going to be sealed up. And you could choose to do just the outer perimeter. I'm going to like enclose each opening. I don't know, just because I can, I guess, because I'm a little bit bizarre that way. So personal preference on how detailed a person would want. I've even got a really narrow strip, so I can just go right in there and close that off to make sure, because you definitely do not want any gaps, because you don't want the shaker bits falling out, because that wouldn't be fun, now would it? This part's, as long as I move this part up a little bit, I don't have to like follow any weird curves or anything. There we go. Not bad. So I will be back once this is all like full. Ta-da! Okay, so another option, if fiddling with the foam tape is just absolutely no, is to take the, where is it? Okay. The die cut pieces, like die cut the frame, tape them in place with a low tack tape, you know, so that all the pieces are in the exact same spot, and then die cut the frame multiple times. I'm talking like 6, 7, 8 times. However, like depending on it would depend on the weight of the cardstock you're using, but you could just die cut the frame multiple times and then just quickly glue them together to build a shaker frame. That would totally work. So then you would sandwich all those pieces together, and then the top piece, you'd put the acetate and adhere it. Hopefully that makes sense. So that's another way to get around having to fiddle with foam tape. This wasn't that bad, honestly. It took me like 2 minutes, maybe a minute, not very long. And before we add any shaker bits, immediately remove the backing, because you do not want all your shaker bits in place and then you start lifting off the backing, because that's going to make things bounce and move, and you don't want to accidentally bounce out the shaker bits and have them just going everywhere. That would not be a good time. That would not be a good time. So I'm going to remove all the backing first, then we can add the shaker bits to this. So we've got all our little openings, which again, you could skip, you know, in closing all of these areas. I don't know. I just think it's going to look cute. Okay, I've removed, yes, all the bits. So for my shaker bits, I'm going to use, this is the Beach Day Shaker Beads. I think this came out in last year's release. I was like kind of digging through my stash and I was like, ooh, these colors will work really nice for this card. So I've got that, and then where's my little spoon? This is by Tonic. I don't think it's available anymore, but any little spoon will work. I'm going to now... Ooh, you do not need, even that many is too many. See what I mean about bouncing it around? I already did what I said I shouldn't have done, but you don't need very many of these for these little tiny openings. That was more than enough. I'll take out a couple more just to give it, there we go. Okay, carefully remove my fingers. Okay, let's try that again. Here we go. This is where it's worth having patience, because these little tiny beads definitely like to move. They create the best shaker, you know, in my opinion. But you just need to be patient with them, because they like to go everywhere. I only need like There we go. A couple for that part. So I'm just going to keep scooping out these little shaker bits. Ooh, and I'm still managing to get them everywhere. You want to roll. There we go. And then I've got one stuck to the foam tape. You don't want any bits stuck to the top of your foam tape. There's another one. Because otherwise it cannot seal shut properly. And you definitely don't want that. It's up to personal preference how many you want to add as well. I'm adding like kind of a lot, but I just think it'll look cute. Okay. A couple more stuck where they don't belong. There we go. Still add there we go. Okay, I think that's gonna be good. Make sure everything's flat, they're not doubled up, anything like that. And then all I gotta do is line up my little press that down. One escaped, that's fine. One escaped. Oh, that's so cute. So I really filled this full, so there's not a whole lot of space, but it's so cute. I love it. Love it. Oh, and before we forget, we've got to add the little flags to the top. So, to do that, I'm just going to take some liquid glue. I'm going to just put that like that. Oh, yes. Seriously, stop it. That's so cute. It's so cute. Okay, less glue this time. Just need a little bit. And then stick that right there. And then one more. Just like that. Oh, and then we have to add the door too, of course. Add that like that. Love it. Okay. So we got those in place. There we go. There we go. And then our little door, which, yeah, like I said, normally I don't do the whole liquid glue on acetate, but for something like this, it'll be fine. So I'm just going to add some glue to the little door, and then we can just stick that right there. Keep you in place. Remove that little excess bit. Okay, and then we just need to let the glue dry. And then we have this cute little sandcastle shaker. Seriously, stop it. I love it. Okay, so for the background, I die cut a piece of white cardstock with this, whatever it's called. I don't remember the name of it. I'll have it linked. Where's the back? Where's the packaging? I don't even know. I'm throwing Chevron pierced plate that I managed to get schmutz onto. No idea. Oh, I got something on me. Whatever. Not too worried about that. I am planning on covering it. And then, yeah, we should be good. We should be good. Let's hope. I want to add some stenciling to this, just because with the, I don't remember the name of this either. It's the Summer, I think, Words is what it's called. So to do that, I just have plain white texture paste that I am going to tint using some Mermaid Lagoon ink. Got that. And then I've got my texture paste. That should be more than enough. Press and seal for the win, just to keep the container sealed better and to extend the life. Hair falling and spiders falling. I'm losing my mind. Anyway. Mermaid Lagoon, Distress ink, and then tinting the texture paste. So the one thing to remember if you're doing something like this is make sure, especially if you're, aiming for a certain color or a specific color, that you mix enough paste. I just generally eyeball it and mix it up real well. And that should be good. Yeah, I like that color. Okay, we're going to apply this over the stencil. I could stick this to a grip mat. I'm not going to worry about it right now because the minute I apply the paste, it's the paste itself is going to kind of hold the stencil in place. So just saves me from having to get out one of my many grip mats. And then just apply this over the stencil. And I actually mixed up a bit more than I needed, but I'm fine with that. You could put this into a separate container, just make sure it's sealed up really good, and then save it for the next project. I'm not going to bother because there's not that much really left. So I'm just going to go like that. Like I said, I'm going to create like a little sand dune or something for the bottom, so I'm not worried about that like at all. We're just going to do that. There we go. And then I can just... that's so fun. So fun. Okay. So that's the beginnings of our background. Let's take off any of the excess that's kind of hanging over the edges just with my fingers like that. So now I gotta let this dry. Won't take very long. And then everything else I'm just gonna take like to the sink and just quickly clean this off. You don't want to leave texture paste. It still can come off after it dries, but I have it just either stick it in a container of water or clean it immediately. It's so much easier, and then you don't have to scrub. And I don't like scrubbing my stencils if I can avoid it because I don't want to wreck, areas. So I'm going to go clean off all my stencils and stuff. Okay, I've got my background. It's dry. You can still see that bit of red, but it's not going to... Yeah, it's not going to matter. But we're just going to try something. And we will just see what happens. I want to add a little more color to this background. So I've got Salty Ocean Distress Oxide Spray. So with the oxides, you need to make sure that you've shaken it up really, really well. And then I'm just going to like that. And then wipe off the nozzle of the spray because oxide sprays have pigments in them. I managed to get it absolutely everywhere, but that's okay. Yeah, got that. And then what I can do, where are all my pieces of paper towel? Right, there it is. I'm going to take some paper towel and just press that into there. And that's picking up a lot of the spray that's sitting on the paste. Like, it's fine, but this way it still helps the paste to kind of stick out more because it would eventually like soak in to the paste. That would be fine, but that way, background has even more texture. So by doing this, I kind of did cover up. You can kind of see it, the like chevron, so you could technically skip that step, but it was still fun. So I've got that. I've got my little shaker castle. I also have another piece of Neenah Desert Storm that I die cut with one of the Shoreline Borders wafer dies. So I die cut that. Set that aside. And then I'm going to use the vintage photo again. I need to trim this. I just cut a random piece. Let's trim this to size. So 4 1/4 inches. There we go. So there's our sand. So I'm going to add the vintage photo distress ink to this as well, so that it's got that similar depth that the Sandcastle has. This back area doesn't really matter. It's going to get covered up, but habit. She's going to blend that on like that. Add a little bit more. Just like that. Yeah, so we've got that so far. And then to give it a little extra something, first off, wipe that off my work surface. Bring out the splat box yet again so that I can add, here we go. We'll add a bit, where is my little palette? Everything, there it is. We're gonna add some of the vintage photo, just smush that right onto my work surface, or like onto my little palette. Add some water, and then I can splatter that onto this piece. So this will create texture to make it look more like sand. And then clean my brush really well. And then I'll take, first off, I will wipe that off because I don't need that. And then I'll add a little bit of white gouache to this, because the white gouache, there we go, will add more texture. So I've got white gouache, add a little bit of water, mix it up really well. And then add some splatter with that. I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to splatter my background too, just because I can. Okay, so now gotta let this dry. I die cut scraps of white cardstock using this little seashell border die. Love it. You've got the border, and then you've got the individual ones, so you can die cut them from different colors of cardstock and then layer them on top to create a seashell border. But I'm just going to use these individual ones. And I have some dried marigold, which I'm going to use for these ones. Just kind of blend that on there. I picked colors that I think go well with the shaker bits of the little Sandcastle shaker, so that everything's kind of similar. Just got the dried marigold. Add a little bit more of that. Let that fade out. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So we got dried marigold. And then for these ones, I pulled out Crackling Campfire, which is going to be much more intense. Love, love. Okay, so got that one. And then that one. And of course, everything's got all that little stitching detail that I just love with Pretty Pink Posh wafer dyes. Okay, let's get those. And then, because I don't want the orange to mix with the next shade, wipe off my work surface. And then these guys, where did it run off to? There it is. Salvage Patina. Okay. So, blend that. And then these ones I'm going to keep, like, kind of let them fade out to white. So just blend that on, like so. Yeah, I like that. Super cute. So we have those. And then I've got my blue cardstock back. Let me quickly, before I forget, you can't really see it, but there is ink there. Let's get rid of that. For my sentiment, I'm going to use the You Are Special. I do like me some punny sentiments. And this is from the little Seashells set. So I'm just going to stamp this with clear embossing ink onto this cardstock. So we're just going to heat emboss this. So anti-static powder. And then white embossing powder. And another one that ran away. Where did my clear embossing ink go? It was here. It was here. Tell y'all, there it is. I spend more time looking for things than I do, you know, crafting. Okay. Ink this up with clear embossing ink. Stamp it onto the cardstock. Coat it with white embossing powder. Tap off the excess. There's like one random little spot that's wanting to be stubborn. There we go. Put the lid on so that I don't dump that everywhere. And then melt this with my heat tool. There we go. Got that. And then I need to take microfiber cloth to buff away that excess anti-static powder so that it doesn't look all cloudy like it does. And then there is a coordinating die set for the stamp set. And there is a coordinating wafer die for this. So now I can die cut this with the coordinating wafer die. So line that up just like that. And then I can run that through my die cut machine. And there is our sentiment. Okay, my card base is also Neenah Desert Storm cardstock, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I'm going to take some Post-it tape right at the score line. Going to line up the stencil again, and I'm going to use the vintage photo. And I'm just going to lightly go over the stencil with this. I'm not using a lot of pressure Like, I don't want this to be super dark or anything like that. More so just kind of give that hint of the pattern, just to kind of bring it on to the inside, because you guys know I like having something on the inside of my cards. And again, this would be a little bit easier if I pulled out one of my grip mats and stuck all this to a grip mat. But if you guys could see the entire state of my desk right now, it would make sense why I'm not doing that. Because y'all, I got a disaster going on here. It's chaos. It's literal chaos, but that's okay. Okay. So, yes, that's exactly what I wanted. So we got that, like so. And then I'm going to take a little sentiment from the Sentiment Strip Summer set. And I'm just going to use the little Happy Summer sentiment. I'm going to line that up with the grid lines. And I'm going to stamp this with black ink. Whoop, onto the inside of this card. So I get that stamped, just simple. And then I'm going to adhere. I kept some of these little extra shells. I'm going to adhere these to the inside, just to finish off the card, or the inside of the card. We still got to adhere everything to the outside of the card. So I got that, and then I've got this. So just like that. So there's the inside. And now I need to adhere all the bits to the card front. So I'm going to run adhesive along the perimeter. Like so. I'm not going to go in between every single line, but just some of them, just to get a decent distribution of the adhesive. And then I will line this up with the card base. Press that down really well. And then I'm going to stick a couple of my acrylic blocks on top of this just to hold this down until the glue like fully dries. Okay, got that adhered. Now we need to adhere our sandy little beach. So get this adhered. So that covers up the little splotch on the bottom that still don't know how I managed to get that on there, but it's all covered up now. I can't see it. So never happened. So adhere that. Little tiny bit of glue. There we go. Okay. And then our little shaker castle. I love this thing. I think it is the cutest thing ever. Okay. So we're going to adhere that like so. So we've got our castle. Just so cute. So cute. Okay. And then we're going to tuck this one in right before it fully has a chance to adhere. There we go. It's got that one in there. This one can go down here. Like that. And then we've got this one and this one, so we'll just kind of adhere them like that. And that one. Like that. And then for the sentiment, I'm gonna need a couple little foam squares just to balance it out. Right there. I'll have to stack these because we're going over quite a bit of dimension. Yes. There we go. That will work. So we take that off there. We can add a little bit of glue. And then line that up like that. And that finishes off our card. So cute. We got our little shaker bits. Love it. Love it. And a whole bunch of texture going on that background. And then the inside. And there we go. So, like always, everything I used will be listed and linked in the description box below the video. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me, for thumbs upping and commenting as well. It does help. It just tells the robot overlords you guys like what you see, and I very much appreciate it. And then subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you. And I'll see you all very soon in the next video. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much to my amazing Patreon supporters. For anyone that might be interested in joining my Patreon community and supporting me, the link to my Patreon is in the description box below the video. For everyone else, as always, thank you all so much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't, I'd love to have you. And here's a couple other videos for you to check out in case you missed them. Bye!